Hello, all. I'm Jonathan, and I am a Mickaboo volunteer. In fact, all the people presenting today are going to be Mickaboo volunteers, already are. Mickaboo is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to education and the rescue and adoption of companion birds. We're a virtual organization with no paid staff. And I'll put in a plug here. We rely on donations to be able to serve the birds. We take in about 200 birds a year on average, and as you saw, we have over 450 birds in foster currently. They're all given care, medical care when needed, and put in their foster and adoptive homes. The costs are staggering. It averages $40,000 to $50,000 for veterinary bills every month. That wasn't a misprint or whatever the voice equivalent is. $40,000 or $50,000 for essential vet care every month. The costs are so high because often newly rescued birds require medical attention after being neglected for a while, or failing health, accidents from escape, or injury from pets. So if you are able, please consider donating. And if you're looking to adopt a forever friend, you're in the right place. Okay, that's the end of the infomercial. Let's talk briefly about the adoption and foster process. Since we're an all-volunteer organization, and because we want to be really careful about the well-being of the birds, the process can take a while. It's not like you just go to the shelter, pick out a dog, and go home with the dog. It takes several weeks to get through the process, mostly getting people's schedules aligned, but also for reviews and such. 6 to 8 weeks, and sometimes longer, is what we're running right now. Please be patient. The results are worth it. And if you feel like you haven't heard from us, please do ping us. It is an all-volunteer organization, and sometimes things accidentally drop, and the reminders are helpful. So the adoption process begins with our basic bird class. We're now doing that online only, and that covers things like shelter, behavior, health and well-being, feeding, what your birds need. Parrots are not simple beings to care for, and they require a lot from their human companions. And we want to be sure that you know what you're in for and are ready to take on that responsibility that goes with having a companion bird. After taking the class, the next thing is to fill out an application, and then you're ready for a phone screen. And this is an opportunity for us to better understand you, what you're looking for in a bird, and your overall understanding of birds and bird care. And it's a great chance for you to talk to a Mickaboo volunteer of your very own and ask questions directly. After that comes a home visit. We used to do these in person way back in the old days, like 2019. And now with COVID, we do these virtually via Zoom or other video conferencing solution, whatever the potential adopter is comfortable with. And I want to reiterate that it is not a white glove test or anything like that. And we only want to see the parts of your house where the bird is going to be. And it helps us recognize and point out to you potential dangers or better cage placement, things like that, so that things can be mitigated before you get the bird. And many of you might be wondering how we're doing the whole meet the birds part of the adoption process, which is what comes next. After the home visit, there's an approval process, and once you're approved, you get to start meeting birds. And we're doing this maintaining social distance. For adoption and foster, we need all parties healthy for at least 2 weeks before the handoff, and we're doing no-touch handoffs where, like we leave the carrier outside your door, we step away, you bring the carrier in, get the bird settled, bring the carrier back out, go inside, we take the carrier, sort of no-touch handoff. If you need any help with cage transport, we would do that as best we can without entering your home. As far as meeting birds, we are doing that via Zoom. And that has, clearly it's not as much fun as meeting the birds in person in a sense. But on the other hand, you're getting to see them in their space without a strange person being present, which is, a stressor for a bird. So you get to see more of what they're really like. For big birds, where the personal connection is more potentially more important, we can and have done socially distant visits by taking the bird outside in their cage or in a carrier for the meeting. And that just depends on what both the foster and the potential adopter are comfortable with. So that's that for the process of adoption, and there is a lot more information on our website, www.mickaboo.org. And if I didn't say it before, that is also the easiest place for you to donate, mickaboo.org/donate. Today we're going to be meeting some of our Mickaboo birds who are seeking forever homes. Certainly not all of them. So we have a wonderful cast today. We have Beale, the blue and gold macaw, who some of you may recognize from the first virtual adoption fair. Beale has learned some new things and is back to tell us about them. Beale and Clay, who are a pair of wild flock Telegraph Hill conures. Tiki, the sun conure. Buttons, another macaw, Scarlet macaw. And a group of finches from a recent aviary rescue that we just did. So with that, let's go to meet Beale and her foster parent, Cindy. Hey, Cindy. Hey, Beale.
Hello. I thought I'd start by getting Beale over to her chair.
Sure. Let's set the stage first here. So
Okay.
Beale was featured in our July virtual adoption fair, and she's back because you guys have been doing some training, correct?
Yes.
So,
yes.
So I want to remind viewers that they can ask questions about Beale in the Q&A, and either our support volunteers will answer them, or I'll ask the question right here directly. So what kind of things have you been working with her on?
So Beale, before we started fostering her in January, she used to step up for her former foster. So we've been trying to gain that trust and get that behavior back. And we've also been working on target training, which is where we have her touch this wooden spoon. So she'll walk over to us and touch this and get a treat.
So let's see some of this in action. And
sure,
of course,
I will do, first I'll have her step up so she can be in the screen.
Yeah. Hi, Beale. What a nice step up. Good girl. And she wasn't stepping up for you a couple of months ago.
No, not even a month ago like this. And she's even gotten more comfortable since I think you last saw her as well a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, what a pretty girl. And so explain target training a little bit for people and show us how she does that.
Yeah, sure. She's just finishing her first reward.
Yeah.
So basically you teach the individual to travel or to touch some kind of target. It doesn't have to be a wooden spoon. And you ready? So this is how we do it. Touch.
So I can see how useful that would be in getting the bird to move from one place to another. I can see it here. We do the same thing with our birds, target training, and it leads to a whole lot of other behaviors.
Exactly.
That's really great. Have you noticed a change in her in terms of how she interacts with you, or her mood and stuff since you've started training? She's certainly very interested now in getting a chance to do something else and get another treat. But have you noticed changes in the relationship?
I do actually. Today I'm using a lot of treats because I want her to show what she can do when she's at her best. But she's starting to step up for me without me having to show her a treat first. So she trusts me more, and I feel like it's built our positive relationship quite a bit.
That's great. So let's get back to some Beale basics. First of all, our audience is probably, well, right now they're noticing how beautiful her wing and tail feathers are, but when she turns
Yes.
around, it's pretty clear to see that she's fairly plucked. Is she sick?
She's not sick. She came to Mickaboo as a surrender a few years back, and she was already plucked like that. And I don't think we know for certain how long she's been doing that or how it even started. But at this point, I feel like it's just a habit. She doesn't actively do it in front of us. So I think she like will see something there, and it's like, you know, somebody who overly plucks their eyebrows or something is like, oh, I have to get it out. She's not anxious or anything like that.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a not uncommon among macaws and other bird species like African grays. And sometimes it's just like, you know, people, like you said, plucking eyebrows or people who bite their nails. It becomes a habit. There are
Mhm.
sometimes underlying physical conditions like hormonal conditions that can lead to it. But I want to make the point for all of our viewers that a plucked bird can be a very happy and well adjusted bird. And Bailey is a great example of that. What sort of things does she like to eat?
So
And
Bailey eats Harrison's pellets. She's on a fairly healthy diet. She eats a wide variety of fruits, and she just actually shared my lunch with me, and she ate asparagus. So I was surprised that she ate that because she doesn't usually care for vegetables.
way to go, Bailey.
Yeah.
How much space does she need? How big should a macaw cage be, and time out of the cage and that sort of thing?
So macaw cages are quite large and heavy. So she has a dedicated corner of our living room over here for her cage. I don't know the exact dimensions, but it's quite large. And she's, because of the pandemic, she's out pretty much all day as much as she wants to be. Although she tends to return to her cage in the middle of the day for a few hours and just kind of hang out there. She's more
Nap
active
time.
in the morning and in the evening.
And what kind of toys does she like? And what's the lifespan of a typical macaw toy?
So she wasn't so interested in toys for her first few months with us, but she started to be more interested, and she can definitely get through the wood ones pretty quickly. Not as, yeah. I would say though they last a good month. We rotate them
Got it.
quite often so that she doesn't get bored.
Yeah, some macaws are regular chipper shredders. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's
She does
great.
enjoy cardboard boxes, which we get plenty of from shipping and things like that. So she will play with those for a while.
Chewing them up, you mean?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
chew them up. Not eat them, but just kind of play with it.
One of our viewers wants to know if Bailey flies.
Bailey, I've never seen her fly. I don't know if she would be able to with the plucking, but I'm not an expert about that.
Right. Okay. So unknown, but she does.
Yes,
She probably doesn't think she can fly if she hasn't ever tried it in your presence.
correct.
Do you know how old she is, or how she came to Mickaboo?
I think she's estimated to be in her 20s.
Okay.
And all I know is that she was when she was surrendered by a gentleman and his son, I believe, and I don't know if we have the information as to why.
Okay, we're getting some good questions coming in. Does she get along well with other birds?
So we had an Amazon until about a month ago, and they were obviously in separate cages, but they've never. She really wasn't even interested, to be honest with you. And I know in her former foster home, she lived with several other macaws, and there weren't any challenges recorded with that.
Got it. Cool stuff. Does she so someone is asking, does she need to go outside like on a bird leash or in a backpack? And if she doesn't need to, does she enjoy it? So there are three separate questions here. One is, she harness trained, right? Do you ever take her out in a harness or a backpack or a carrier? And does she need that, is I guess the other question.
So no, I don't think she has any experience using a harness or a backpack. We have been working on getting into, she has a large acrylic carrier should we need to, emergency purposes, need to leave the house or something. And she's getting more comfortable getting into that. That's one of the other behaviors that we've been working on.
Nice. Now, Macaw, we're hearing her vocalizing a little bit now.
Mhm.
And it doesn't sound all that loud. Macaws have a reputation for being kind of loud. Does she ever get loud, like in the morning or evenings?
She does. It's not actually time based so much as what's going on in the environment based. And it also seems to be either several times in one day, or she'll have days where she doesn't do it at all. She definitely will do it if I'm on the phone or in a Zoom meeting. Apparently, this one is permissible. Yeah, and then also sometimes to children playing outside. But overall, I wouldn't describe her as like an excessive screamer or anything like that.
Right. But when she does get loud, she can hit the volume levels.
Definitely, yeah. We have a house, so not an apartment, and so it's okay here.
And is that what she does when she wants your attention? She vocalizes, or does she have other ways of getting your
Yeah,
attention?
she will. She so as far as speaking, she'll say hello, and that's definitely to get attention. If she knows you're in the kitchen, she'll say hello.
Nice.
Yeah, and she imitates my laugh, which is fun. That's for attention too. Woo, careful.
Wow. Nice. So in our last couple of minutes, what else would you like to share with potential adopters, or what else would they need to be aware of? Oh, and one question came in on that. Does she bite?
Oh, that's a great question. So as far as I know, she never bit the former foster who she was with, I think, for about 3 years. And she will beak. So that's kind of like, taking
Like
your
that's
skin
it.
with her beak, but not actually like doing it to cause harm or make you bleed or anything like that. And it's pretty obvious that it's coming. So we just give her space at that time, and it's never been an issue.
Does she say any words besides hello?
That's pretty much the only one I've heard so far. But she makes a variety of vocalizations. She makes like little cute baby noises for some reason when the washing machine is running, which is really funny.
You probably saw that video of the cute little kayik running around in circles on the washing machine.
Yeah.
And I'll put
Yeah.
in my own editorial comment about the question, does she bite? Because it's sort of like asking me if I hit people. If in certain circumstances I might, but I don't generally do so. And that's kind of the way it is for birds as well. So thank you so much, Bailey, for being here, and Cindy for sharing her with us. And
Thank you.
if people have further questions, they can ask them in chat, and we will try to get to them as we go. Now let's go to our wild flock conures, Beale and Clay, and Sarah. Hey, Sarah. Nice to see you.
Hi, Jonathan. Again. Hello. Nice to see you too. How's it going?
It's going well. These guys are just such a cute couple, and they do this synchronized eating thing that I think should be in the Olympics. They're just
Aren't
so
they?
Cute.
Aren't they just? They are super cute. They really are two of my favorites out of all of my foster birds.
Before we get started, I want to remind all our viewers that you can ask questions about Beale and Clay in the Q&A. And either we'll get to them in session or our volunteers will answer them. So for people who aren't familiar, Sarah, will you tell us a little bit about the wild flock conures in general?
Yes. So in San Francisco, many people might know that there is a flock of cherry-head and mitred hybrid conures that live in the city. We're guessing there's somewhere between 200 to 250, maybe 300 a push, living out there. And they roost together, and then they fly around the city all day foraging for food. And the flock has been active for over 20 years now. And generally they do okay up there. But every now and then a bird will get sick or injured, and then members of the public find them perhaps lying on the sidewalk or in a park, on the ground, clearly struggling, not doing well, and then they will pick them up and take them to the shelter. And that's when the shelters tend to contact Mickaboo. And since 2003, we have been taking in sick or injured birds from the wild flock when the shelters ask us to, and we get them the medical care that we need, that they need. And then once they're better, we try and pair them up so that they have a friend, because obviously they're used to living with other birds. And then we move them into foster homes, and if we can, we adopt them out in pairs.
And that pairing is really important for them. They just don't do well as only birds. And they select their own companion, right? Because these guys are really just like us, you know, very particular about who's a friend and who isn't.
Yeah, that's right. And Beale and Clay have already had one pair each in their time with Mickaboo. Beale has actually been with Mickaboo since 2012. So Beale has a long history. And after Beale came in and got better, we paired Beale up with a very cute bird from the flock called Monty. And they were a pair for several years. And then unfortunately, Monty had a seizure and passed away. And so poor Beale was left all on her own again. And then so we started a mission to find Beale a new friend. And just at the same time, Clay had been paired with another bird called Eddie, who really was quite wobbly and was not doing very well. And Eddie passed away at the vet whilst Clay and Eddie were both there under medical supervision. And so we tried introducing Beale and Clay to each other, and they just vacuumed together like two peas in a pod in a heartbeat. It was instant attraction, and they just hit it off from the get-go, and they've been a happy little pair ever since. So that's about 2.5 years now that they've been hanging out together, and they're always doing stuff together, whether it's perching and preening on the same little perch or shelf, or hanging together from the top of the cage. They love dangling around by a beak or a foot, or just eating and grooming or sleeping. They're always together.
So how did these two come to Mickaboo? Obviously, they didn't come in together.
Yeah, they both came in because they were found looking sick. So members of the public found them and brought them to the shelter. Beale is very plucked. You can see Beale's the one on the left, who's a little bit further back from the camera, and Clay is a little closer to the right, closer to the front. And you can see Beale's crop and belly is quite plucked.
Right.
So Beale came in and had an original illness that was treated at the vet. And now Beale is fine. Unfortunately, the plucking has continued. So Beale's belly and legs are pretty plucked, and I think they always will be at this point. It's been 8 years, and there's no way those feathers can regrow at this point. The follicles are damaged. But Beale is relatively healthy now. Beale's very active and a good eater and not on any medication. Clay came in with all of the symptoms that we've seen from when we find that the birds have been exposed to rat poison. And this is a problem that we've been dealing with for years. And we don't know exactly how it's happening, but we funded a study with several avian veterinarians to test the birds that came in that did pass away. And we were able to find positive results for bromethalin, which is one of the newer rodenticides. We suspect that it might just be private use where people are not putting it in containers to safely keep it away from other species. And with the birds flying around the city and often hanging out on apartment roofs or bird feeders, it's very possible there might be some places where they're finding some of it and eating it thinking it's food. So right. we often see, maybe 10 to 15 birds, sometimes more, coming in where they're very wobbly. They have a lot of urological damage from it. We actually had a paper published last year with a write-up from the study sharing the results about the findings of bromethalin in these birds, which is very sad.
That's available on the Mickaboo website. And I'll just piggyback on this. Viewers, if you have rodent problems, please find ways other than poison to deal with them. Because the impact throughout the ecosystem, not just the predators who eat the rats, but to birds like this. are huge. We have a couple questions coming in. One is, do they fly? And if you let them fly around, do they come back to the cage on their own?
These two do not fly. Clay is very wobbly. You can see that their cage is set up with lots of rope perches and with a flannel liner. And the reason that we have this flannel towel liner at the bottom is because Clay does fall off of the perches reasonably often. They're both quite wobbly, but Clay is really the more wobbly of the two. So we have a flannel liner that's changed every day to make sure they have a soft landing every time they tumble. And that's really important for these two. Beale is a little bit more active, and actually just about half an hour before our adoption fair started, Beale actually climbed out of the cage and was walking around on the top. So Beale does like to go on adventures, but they don't really fly. I think they'd only try to fly if they were really spooked or felt very threatened. And they would not be able to fly very well, and I think they would struggle. They'd probably end up walking on the floor back to their cage rather than flying back. And I wouldn't encourage you to take them out of the cage unless you had a very carefully designed safe play area that was also lined with towels or flannel like their cage is.
Got it. So that brings up the thing about special needs birds, and special needs birds are birds with typically medical issues like these two. Now with these two, it's pretty mild, right? They don't need medication. They just need an environment that's safe if they fall down.
That's correct. They really, they get a lot of enrichment from each other's company. They're always eating together, preening together, grooming, napping, and they don't need any medication. We do have to monitor their droppings and their weight regularly because we find some of these birds that have had previous health issues, they can be more prone to other issues. So we definitely monitor them really carefully. So that's important, but they're not on any kind of medication. We don't have, really the hardest thing is just keeping up with the bird laundry, because obviously those flannel liners have to be changed every day.
Right.
And that's very important to keep the cage clean, keep the rope perches clean, rotate things out regularly, replace their toys.
And I want to point out that in part because special needs birds take a little more work, that Mickaboo waives the adoption fee for them. That's an important point. Our little bit of watchers, our attendees want to know if they vocalize, and also to hear a little about their diet.
Yes, they do. They're very excited about sunrise and sunset. So they, like the wild flock, would vocalize when the roost is getting ready to take off in the morning, and when they come back at night to roost. Sunrise and sunset are very exciting times in this household. I have several pairs of these birds.
They can be pretty loud at those times, right?
They can, and they'll kind of excite each other up, and they'll have maybe like 5-10 minutes where they just want to greet the day. But when you only have two of them, it's reasonably manageable. I'm fostering several pairs, and so the noise level increase is not linear, because they'll excite each other up, and the vocalizations will be more prolonged and a little louder as they kind of compete with each other's volume levels. If you only have one pair, it's a little bit, depending on how noisy your household is in general, it's not too bad.
The wild flock conure exponential sound experiment.
Yes.
We're needing to wrap up. People are asking how they like to interact. Do you pick them up, or are they mostly just hang out and talk to them birds? And do they need to have other birds besides the two of them around, or are they okay just as a pair?
They're okay just with the two of them, as long as they have each other. It's important that they have bird company from another wild parrot, but they don't. They obviously enjoy calling to the other foster birds we have here, but they would be okay just the two of them. And I know someone asked about food as well. They're really good veggie eaters, because having grown up foraging outdoors, they recognize fruit and veggies, and they happily eat them very well. So we're able to give them a good diet of that.
Yay. So in our last minute or so, what else would you like to share with potential adopters? Or what would they need to be aware of besides that these guys are really, really cute and very sweet, and other than taking care of their, soft environment, they're
They
pretty
are.
mellow.
It's really charming to watch them. It's very peaceful to watch them grooming each other and enjoying each other's company. And even if you feel that handling really wobbly birds that need a special cage setup might be too much for you, we have several pairs of the rescued and rehabilitated wild flock parrots from San Francisco looking for homes. So please do give them a thought. Most of them are not on medication. And they are really good veggie eaters. It's really sweet to watch the birds in pairs. And they can be really fun to take care of. So do think about them.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you so much, Beale and Clay.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Hey, Katie. Hi, Tiki. You have this beautiful vivacious bird. Tell us about Tiki. He's a sun conure?
Yes, he's a sun conure. Isn't that the perfect name? His feathers are so bright. They're just brilliant marigold yellow and hot fire orange. And his wings have green and then blue at the edges. He's so beautiful.
So my understanding is that in the wild, these birds are pretty endangered. Is that
yes, their beauty is part of the problem. People have been taking them for the pet trade, and their habitat has been lost. And we've recently learned that there may be no more than a few hundred of these lovely birds in the wild, which is so sad.
That's so sad. I mean, that's the size of the San Francisco's Telegraph Hill flock, and this is their entire population. Whereas they used to be spread across a couple of different countries. I understand that there is a larger population, in pet birds in the U.S. So that.
Yes, these are originally from northern Brazil and Guyana, but obviously in the pet trade in the U.S. there are more. I mean, the species is not going to be wiped out, but they'll all be in captivity, which is just really sad.
I concur. About the conure. We're already getting questions. One is, does he do well in carriers if he has to go to the vet or elsewhere?
Well, I'll tell you, he's only been with my husband and me for about 6 weeks. He was with a man before that for about a year who had found him in a construction site. So he clearly has been a pet, but we don't have a lot of history on him, and we have not taken him to the vet. But what's wonderful about Tiki is that we have had great success in training him. And I think you can easily train him to go into a carrier. Like we've been working on, I've been using the tiniest little bit of walnut I can and saying, hey, you want to step up? Now you can hear him yelling, but he wants the walnut, but he doesn't want to step up. So we've been working on getting him to step up, and we've been getting some success.
This
and
is
I think
actually a wonderful moment, wonderful teaching. Parrots are not an animal that you, they have a mind of their own, and sometimes they want to do it, and sometimes they don't. And forcing them is not the way, but just letting them come to it. That was beautiful. Thank you, Tiki, for illustrating that.
Yes, Tiki. The other thing I've been working on him with is he used to, when I put my finger toward him, he would squawk and then he'd beak my finger, which is just, he's holding it to say, no, don't do that. But it's not biting. He's never bitten us to anything, that might hurt. But so I've been learning him to, been teaching him to say, hey, scritch. Scritch. And so when I say scritch, he lets me touch the back of his head and scritch him for a little while, and then he knows he gets another walnut. So he's happy with that.
How is Tiki with dogs? Has he interacted with dogs at all?
We don't have a dog, so I don't know. We do have a green cheek conure, and he and our conure like to look at each other and make noise together, but I don't know about dogs or other pets.
Got it. Let's talk about his diet. What does Tiki eat?
Well, this is another reason why I think this is a very adaptable bird, is that when he came to us, he was eating mostly a seed diet. which is not healthy for birds. It's sort of like us eating, peanut butter all the time. And
Wait,
so
that's a
he has
problem?
spent, yeah, it's a problem because it's a high-fat diet. And like us, we don't do well on a high-fat diet, and birds don't either. And people think seeds are what birds should eat, but it actually isn't. They should be eating a variety of vegetables and some formulated pellets that have vitamins and minerals in them. So right now he's eating all pellets and vegetables. So he's on a great diet right now.
Nice. Does he fly?
He would probably normally fly because he was found in a construction site and had flown there. But his previous owner had clipped his wings very aggressively. So right now, it's like Buzz Lightyear said, "You're not flying, you're falling with style." So
Perfect.
Wing the wings.
yeah, but he can flutter to the floor right now. But his feathers will grow, and I'm sure he'll be flying once his feathers have grown.
So he looks like he's very happy interacting with people, and he steps up when he wants to, which is all you can ask for a bird. And I love your necklace. That's going to be what they're wearing in Milan next year.
Clearly,
yeah.
The alternative is the freckles on my neck. He thinks are seeds, and so he tries to eat them. And so, no, I think we'd rather have cardboard.
Does Tiki show any gender preference?
He doesn't. Both my husband and I have been playing with him, and he seems to be happy with both of us.
And what's a typical day like with Tiki?
Well, I'll tell you, he's,
my goodness.
He is just incredibly cute. We just keep thinking, how gorgeous is this bird? When he wakes up in the morning, which is when the sun comes up, if he hears us, he starts yelling because he wants to be with his flock. We have him sleeping in a separate bedroom. So we roll him out so he can be with us and with the green-cheeked conure, which is his current flock. And then he calms down and he eats some breakfast. But then he's in a very talkative mood. So if my husband and I have a conversation going, he's going bark, 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 bark to join us in that flock conversation. He preens in the morning and explores and chews on cardboard and chews on wood. And then we roll him outside, a deck right outside of our kitchen. So we just roll the cage right outside, and they're in the shade for about an hour outside so they can get some natural sunlight, because all birds need some natural sunlight for their feathers and for their general health. And he loves being spritzed with water. He'll stretch out his wings and say, "Oh yes, get a little more under my arm." And he can also take a bath out of a dish, although he has been a little shy to do that. Anyway, so then he comes back inside, and while I change the cage, he comes out and sits on my shoulder, and then we sit down and try our little training time. We spent like maybe 10 or 15 minutes a day on that, so not a lot of time, but he has come from being very frightened of our fingers when he arrived to stepping up quite readily most of the time. And he'll,
there's a great example
so,
of beaking right there.
There's a good. He's just beaking gently. So anyway, we do a little training time, and then he kind of naps in the afternoon, and then active again, and he eats some supper, and he goes to sleep around the time when the sun goes down. He starts making these little sleepy sounds, which are really, really cute.
Does he seem to need having another bird around, or would he be okay as an only bird getting a lot of interaction?
It matters a lot to him to be near the other bird. I mean, he's calling. If we bring bird out on the porch and the other bird is inside, they're both going, "Hey, hey, hey, where are you?" So yeah, I think he would be fine if you have time to interact with him. He's a really friendly bird. Like every time we room, he starts wiggling his shoulders, which says like, "Oh, here you are, here you are. Oh my gosh, how great. I want to play with you." So you've got to have some time. If he's going to be an only bird, you should have some time to play with him because he wants to be played with. You should also be aware that when he's doing his flock calls, he's really loud. And for bird like this, you would not think he could make that much noise, but it is a loud call. And it's not without reason or anything. He's, he'll call when one of us walks into the room. He's like a watchdog, like, wah, wah, there's somebody here. But if you live in an apartment, this is probably not an ideal bird. But if you live in a house or, something where you've got some auditory space and you don't mind, my husband doesn't mind the noise. He's usually like next to my ear when he's going, back, back. So yeah, my ears are ringing. Mm-hmm.
So in our last few minutes, what else would you like to share about Tiki, or what would potential adopter need to be aware of? We just mentioned the sound and how much.
Oh, and I would say he benefits from a predictable routine. When he came to us, he was very shy. He would step up on his former owner's finger, but not on ours. And then we worked with him and he came to trust us. So just because he knows you're going to uncover him, he knows he's going to get his breakfast, he knows he's going to get his bath, he knows he's going to get some out of the cage time. He loves to know what's going to happen next. And I think that would be the key to having a great relationship with this bird. And I think the other thing you should know is I don't know if he's young or old, but he feels like a younger bird to me because he is flexible in his behaviors and adaptable. And he has a gentle, eager personality, which is just very, very sweet.
All right. Thank you so much, Tiki. I hope you find your forever's home very soon. And Katie, thank you for sharing him with us. We are going to move from a small colorful bird to a very big colorful bird, a scarlet macaw named Buttons. Hey, Buttons and Sierra, how you guys doing?
We're doing good.
Buttons, you're stepping up. I hear you have some new words too.
Yes, so she actually recently has started saying step up Buttons when I ask her to step up.
Good girl. Boy, she's so pretty. I want to remind our viewers that you can ask questions about Buttons in the Q&A tab on your Zoom screen here. So how long has Buttons been with you, and do you have any idea of how old she is?
So I've had her 2 months in 3 days, and she's approximately 26.
Okay, so that's young adult for a macaw.
Yes, considering she could 80.
Yeah. How did she come to Mickaboo?
So she surrendered, hold on, just so she doesn't fly. She was surrendered after her mom unexpectedly passed away. So I'm assuming the family of the lady couldn't really care for her. So she ended up actually at For the Birds, which is an avian vet in San Jose. And I'm fostering another cockatoo. And when I went to pick the cockatoo up, I heard a squawking in there and I asked them, oh my gosh, who is that? And they said, it's Buttons. It's actually Freeway's friend. They're not bonded, but they would always squawk at each other. And so, yeah, that's how she make it feel. And here.
Yeah, nice. Let's start with diet. What does she eat?
So she mainly eats Harrison's pellets. She also eats the Lefever's NutriCakes or the NutriBalls, and she eats a variety of fruit. She's not much of a veggie bird, but she loves bananas, apples. I tried pomegranates. She wasn't too fond of them. But yeah, most fruits she really enjoys. And she loves almonds, of course.
Of course. And probably walnuts, too. Although she gets bigger chunks than Tiki the Sun Conure.
Yes.
So it looks like she steps up.
Yes.
How does she like to interact with people?
So considering everything she's been through, and when I say that, she lost her mom, she lost her home, she was at this vet with a bunch of other birds and people in and out. The day when I picked her up, she came to my side of the crate and just said, hi, in the friendliest voice I've ever heard from a bird. And so I already was like, oh, I think I'm going to like you. So I brought her home and I was a little hesitant at first, But she stepped right up to me after being in a car for 5 hours, not knowing me, being in a new environment, and she was just came right to me and was super friendly. And in the 2 months that I've had her, she's never tried biting me at all. And that's not to say that she wouldn't, but she just hasn't.
Right, right. And when you say you were a little hesitant, I'm guessing it's about that giant beak and the potential for biting. Macaws can be pretty intimidating, but they're really, really sweet.
Oh yeah,
Um,
gold macaw, and her beak is not a lot smaller, but I was kind of expecting her to be the same size, and when I picked her up, I was like, whoa, she's way bigger.
Moon golds are big. Scarlets are bigger. um, so like Bailey, she's pretty plucked. What does the vet have to say about that, and how are you managing it?
So they didn't mention anything to me about her being special needs or hormonal or anything. And she had been there some time. So it's hard to say what her plucking's from. I would imagine that maybe, the trauma that she endured and all the stress that she's been under, that, that could definitely play a part in why she's plucked. Since she's been here, she's already grown back the feathers on her legs, and she's also feathers on her chest.
Right, her upper chest, which is an area that birds often is part of the plucking, and that's growing back. That's great. Looks like she barbers her tail a little bit too.
Yes.
You said that you were giving her nuts so that she doesn't fly, so that suggests that she flies.
Yes, she flies. And my other parrots, they don't. So right when I'm like, okay, there she goes. But she has a pretty good landing. It's like she definitely knows she can fly, and she's pretty good with navigating. But for any potential adopter, making sure that there's stuff that can't step up. Okay. Making sure that there's no fans that are on, or someone's not in the kitchen cooking where she could fly into some grease or something is very important.
Right. She agrees. Question coming in. Do you know if she's had any experience with kids?
I do not. The only experience that she's had is with my other animals. I have 4 dogs. I have 2 cats, and I have other parrots, and she doesn't mind them at all. With that being said, my other animals don't engage in her. They don't bark at her. They don't do anything to her. So she doesn't do anything to them. It's like a mutual respect.
I've known macaws who would call the dogs.
Yeah, she actually hisses now, and other macaw she barks. So up on some stuff.
That's awesome. So no medical conditions. She's not on any medication. Interacts well with people and other birds. She really, she's just a wonderful big bird.
I think so, definitely. I was very amazed, actually, because my other parrots that I've had, it took weeks, if not months, to get their trust. And even after, her whole ordeal and the car ride and everything, she was perfectly fine with me. And it was really admirable.
People are asking if the rest of her feathers will grow back, and the answer to that is we just don't know. It depends on how long she's been plucking.
Right.
Can't really know.
They're starting back, which is a pretty good sign, but we don't know.
Yeah. The fact that some of them are growing back is really, really wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sierra, do you have any favorite button stories?
Well, my favorite one is when I picked her up and when she came over to my side and just, hi. But other than, she's really funny. She has, like most parrots, her own personality, and some of the stuff she does is just really funny. She actually is on a really good routine. We do the same thing almost every day. So every morning I open the blinds and I turn on the lights, and she's, hi, buttons. She says a variety of stuff and then puts her name in it. So, she'll come up to the top of her cage and hi, all morning until I leave. And I think that's actually my favorite part of her, because one of the reasons I really like parrots is I don't have kids or live with anyone. So they make my home feel like I'm not by myself. They make it, I don't know, my birds are pretty much bonded with me, and I think she likes me enough. So, oh, is that fun? So, yeah, so it just, I really have enjoyed having her. She's made fostering, which is something that I've recently done, something that I can want to do continuously. Sorry.
Yeah, it's great to see how well she's doing in the relationship that you guys have. Sierra, thanks so much for sharing her. And Buttons, thanks so much for being with us. And hopefully there's someone with again, like Bailey, she needs a big cage and a lot of space and a lot of attention. And she'll make someone a wonderful forever friend.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are now going to go from one of the largest companion birds to some of the smaller. We have the Christmas finches, Donner and Blitzen and several others. Hi, Amy.
Jonathan, how are you?
Good. It looks like there are 5 finches there in that cage, and these were rescued from an aviary recently. Why don't we start? Tell us a little bit about that, about this aviary rescue and aviary rescues in general.
This aviary rescue actually started in 2016, before I actually was involved with Mickaboo, but apparently the gentleman and his mother who owned the aviary and the birds called Mickaboo and said they needed to find other homes for the birds. So Mickaboo volunteers went and got a total of, I believe, 5 budgies and 4 finches. And then the people who owned the aviary changed their minds and said, we're going to keep them. So to my knowledge, we didn't hear anything more until roughly August. And they needed the aviary emptied because the mother had passed away, sadly, and the young man who was still living there needed to sell the property. So several volunteers went over there and we pulled out a total rescue number of 122 birds that were in this aviary, which was not in good condition. There were rats and mice in it, and a number of the birds had injuries or health issues like AGY, which is a disease that birds get, or feather bites. So we have found foster homes for many of the budgies, and but we still have a number of the finches, and so that's what you're looking at right now. The gentleman who owned the aviary said that the bird that is on your, I guess it's on your left of the screen,
The whitest bird,
brownish one, is sort of the mother of a whole bunch of them. And she is not a zebra finch. We think that she's a society finch. And apparently they had purchased her because she has a band on her leg. Most of the other finches in the aviary are either zebra finches or perhaps crossbreeds. There was a lot of crossbreeding and breeding going on, which is not good for the birds. It's not good for the genetic pool, of course. So we don't know the actual parentage of some of these birds.
So that 100+ birds is a really good example of kind of an uncontrolled breeding situation and how it gets out of hand.
Yes, it's very true. I did a little research and I found out that for zebra finches, it can only take 4.5 months for a bird to go from being an embryo in an egg to being the parent of a fully fledged child bird that's on its own.
Wow.
See how quickly these little guys can reproduce. The birds you're looking at here, the one on the left is the one I call Grandma. The one next to her is a female zebra finch. I don't know how well you can see on the screen, but you can see sort of light brown patches on her cheeks.
Yes.
Then the one next to her is a male, and what you see is a bright orange patch on his cheek, and his colors are more vivid. The one next to the male is a white one with some brownish, grayish spots. I suspect she may be a crossbreed. And then the one on the far left, far right, as you look at your screen, is another zebra finch male.
You mentioned
different kinds of finches.
Are any of these birds dealing with injuries? or medical issues?
Yes. In the aviary right here, I don't know if you can see it, probably not. The bird that is now on the far left, excuse me, has a foot problem where her toes are deformed. The main issues, though, are birds that I do not have right now. One of them had a terrible tumor on his leg that, it's a female, excuse me, she did. And she's basically in what we call hospice care. The tumor is inoperable, it's too large and it's too small a bird to be able to be removed successfully. So, so she's just being cared for in a soft, comfortable cage, and she'll live out her life there. And another one also just has one foot. The leg just stops right at the ankle, and it's just a stump, and he just has the one foot. So his cage is adapted for him with perches that are flat in the corners, you know, the flat kind of perches. He can perch on a regular perch, but he prefers to be on a flat surface. And then there is another one that for some reason cannot fly very well. She can get only about a foot above the ground and cannot get any more lift. And we're not quite sure why that is. She is missing some tail feathers, but I don't know that that would be the entire reason. So she's in kind of an adaptive cage with the other two.
Got it.
So a lot of the birds that we pulled out did have other injuries. You know, one of them had a terrible wound to its eye, and they had avian gastric yeast, as I said, and some other injuries.
Do finches like to interact with people? Are they like parrots where they'll step up, or are they more kind of ambient companions?
They're more birds to just watch. I think they're very social. They're very cute. They're interactive in the sense that, you know, they chirp and they move around a lot, but they're not the kind of birds that will step up and be like a companion bird, like some of the parrots that we have seen on the adoption fair. They're often found in nursing homes and assisted living places because they're fairly easy to care for, and they are just a lot of fun to watch, and they're very pretty little birds.
They also they're really fun to listen to, right?
Yes. They don't really chirp. They make funny little noises, but yes, it's very endearing. We're told that the mother bird, the grandma, who's now eating out of her food bowl in the lower right corner of the screen, can sing, and sings very prettily sometimes, but I have not heard that. That's what the gentleman who owned the apiary told us.
Got it. They beep. Someone wrote. How do they do outdoors in our climate? Are they okay in an outdoor aviary?
Yes, they're fine right now. I do have most of them. I actually have 28 birds. These 5 I brought in from the aviary this morning so that I could show them for the adoption fair. The others are still outside in the aviary, and they seem to be doing fine. It hasn't gotten real cold yet though, or rainy. If it does get cold and rainy, I'll put a cover over the aviary. If it's rainy and also at night, just to keep a little more warmth in. But they seem to be doing just fine. And I think they'll be fine if it doesn't get really, really cold. And I doubt that it will. If we're just going to have a hard freeze or something, then I will of course bring them inside. But I think they're doing pretty well.
Got it. A question just came in.
Yeah.
The parrots that we're featuring have toys and such. Do zebra finches need toys?
They don't. They don't seem very interested in toys. They do like swings, and I could have put a couple of swings in here, but I didn't. But they've been enjoying these little rope things, which are kind of like bouncy boings that parakeets like, that budgies tend to enjoy. But they really don't do much with toys other than a swing.
So these guys are adoptable, and it sounds like they're really not so much special needs birds, although there are some special needs finches coming out of this, and also a number of budgies who are still looking for their forever homes from this aviary.
Right.
In our last few minutes, what else would you like to share with potential adopters, or what would they need to be aware of as possible zebra finch people?
Oh, this is actually my first experience with zebra finches, and I just love them. They're so much fun, and they're cheerful, and they're colorful, and they're very pretty. They eat a mixture of seeds and Harrison's superfine pellets. And believe it or not, they like Brussels sprouts. So I've been giving them chopped up pieces of Brussels sprouts and apple, romaine lettuce, some other things like that. So they eat a very good diet. In the wild, they come from Australia, which kind of surprised me. I thought zebra finches would be an African bird, but no, they come from Australia, the middle parts of Australia. And but they have been colonized in other countries too. Puerto Rico and Portugal has now naturally occurring wild populations, probably brought over or released as pets by somebody at some time.
Right, or stowaways on board a grain ship or something. You could certainly.
Right, could be. The society finches, I was surprised to learn, are not an individual breed. They are a crossbreed that was developed in China and India like 1,000 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they are not a separate identifiable breed. So I think that the finches that he had in the aviary and that we now have, and at least one other Mickaboo person also has a number of these finches, a lot of them are crossbreeds.
Neat stuff. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you so
lots
much.
of fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan.
Most welcome. We've seen some big birds, some medium-sized birds, and some very small birds, all of whom are looking for their forever home. I want to thank all of you for attending our October virtual adoption fair. If you have any ideas or comments on how we can improve for next time, please mention it in chat or send us an email. We're always looking to get better. All of these birds, as I said, are looking for forever homes, and if you fell in love with one of them, please contact us. And if nobody here seemed like the right bird, please take a look at the other birds on our website, mickaboo.org. And remember that we are fully donation-funded nonprofit, and you can support the work that we do of parrot rescue and education at the website mickaboo.org/donate or paypal.me/mickaboo. We'll be doing these events regularly. We're going to take a little break for the holiday. We're planning another one January 30th. Also, we've got some really fun holiday events coming up. That'll be the weekend of December 5th and 6th. So check in about these or other events on the events page at mickaboo.org. Huge thanks to all of our foster parents and to their birds for being brave enough to come here and be on video, and for all of the volunteers who provided the technical support, keep this event happening smoothly, to stream it over on Facebook, answering questions, and more. Thank you all very much,